All right, we're on.
All right. Welcome, Black and Tan fans, to episode Donald.
36.
Wow. It's a new day. It
It's
is
a new day, dude. Hey, look, I woke up on the right side of the bed tonight. This morning. See,
Bosses don't work. He said tonight.
that's right.
He just woke
listen,
up right now.
listen. It's been a long day, but I got the episode right.
You did get
Episode
this.
36. We've been doing this for almost a year now.
Yes.
Over a year.
Actually longer, but that's the new math.
Yeah, just let me have it. Just let me have it. Just let me have it. It's all right. Yeah. But so it's been good, man. We've been doing a lot of covering a lot of different stuff, covering a lot of different people. And I think 36 episodes in and being relatively consistent, maybe we've jumped around a little bit on our starting time, mostly because of technical difficulties, which we thought we'd bring
Not the work
this guy in.
any of that.
We thought we were going to bring this guy in and solve all our technical
I know,
difficulties.
dude. Today was a rough day. I don't know what happened.
Now
But anyway.
there's random thumbs up coming in the feed now. Like if I move.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about.
Did we do an introduction already?
We didn't, but I mean at this point we're 36 episodes in. People know who we are. But just in case you don't, I'm Donald with Patapsco Bikes and Black and Tan. This guy next to me here is.
What's up, everybody? I'm on episode, I think, 62 on my channel.
Are you 62?
Yeah. So I've been
Just
doing
gotta beat me in every category, don't you, brother?
62 episodes.
He just went up to you.
Yeah.
He more than one up.
It's a fake number, Paul. It makes it sound big, but welcome everyone. We have a cool episode, as you guys can see. We're streaming from Patapsco Bicycles Elkridge. Thank you for joining us today. We have a couple people joining, and yeah, make sure you hit
Hold
the
on.
like. Yeah.
They don't know who Doctor is.
Oh, yeah.
Our doctor friend here. He didn't introduce himself. We introduced ourselves.
Maybe you should.
Oh, that's a trick question.
No, that's a good question.
No, I can introduce you. I know how to introduce you. Ladies and gentlemen, the other guy in the room, well, not actually in our room, is Dr. Paul Lavelli. You won a couple of championships. He's a champion, Dr. Paul Lavelli. Soon to be defeated on a hill climb by me, Dr. Paul Lavelli.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. All right. There you go. There's your introduction.
Is that it?
How-
Are you done?
I'm done.
How many KOMs do you have on your profile, Doctor? Let's
I
start
don't
there.
even. I don't
He
even.
has. You know what? That's a good question. I think he has a couple of pages of KOMs.
Really?
I think-
Pages?
Yeah, he has a couple of pages
Like
of
you gotta
KOMs.
scroll a couple times to see.
Yeah,
it.
you got to scroll through. I think there's like 20 on a page. I think he has a couple pages.
You know, when the weather goes nice, we can go hunting.
We can go hunting. But here's, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Elvis. No, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you.
As
And
opposed
I'm
to
not just saying this. I'm not saying this because Paul's online with me. Paul's my good friend. I'm loyal. I'm a loyal guy. I'm not gonna go hunting with you to take Paul's KOMs. Right? That's loyalty. But I wouldn't go hunting with someone else to take yours either.
Yeah, mice are easy to take.
I
I
don't
just
know.
ride when people doesn't ride that much.
I don't know. There's a couple of guys that their entire website is based on taking KOMs.
Wow.
Some retired pros. That's what they do. They go out and they take these massive KOMs.
So since you did it in the introduction, why don't you elaborate on how you're going to beat my butt up a hill in 2 weeks?
We're good.
Okay, we're good. Yeah, I see somebody commented that we have a feedback. It's the audio. We had some issues getting started here, so
There's
Are
some
you still
echoes
here?
going on.
if you guys still get a feedback, let us know in the chat and we can try to and do
Yeah,
something about it.
might even be your phone.
Yeah, I had it on just to monitor the audio a bit, but let us know.
All right, so what's going on with the race? All right, so I am right around 200 pounds. I hit kind of like a plateau in losing weight. I talked to you earlier, Paul, and you said that you were right around 180. 185. Damn. So what's going to happen when you get to like 190, 195?
I'm going to beat you in arm wrestling.
I don't know. That's one thing I'm probably better at than bike riding. But but yeah. So the race is coming up on the 17th. Man, I have a busy month. I'm flying out to visit the guys at Pivot Bicycles at the end of the month. We're going to be riding some of their bikes. On the 17th of this month is a race between me and Paul. I think we have a couple of bike demo things going on here at the shops in between. It's going to be very busy. But
wait, your race with Paul is on the 17th of this month?
Is it this month or next month?
It's this month. It's the next podcast.
So I guess do we have a rain day? Because it looks like we're gonna have to reschedule.
Well,
The 17th.
there's-
We don't know.
It's raining so bad around the shop that there's actually stranded vehicles around the corner.
Whoa.
Yeah, the creek right across around the corner from the shop that starts a pretty good climb that we call Ridge Climb. Right before Ridge Climb, that creek is swollen to the point where there's a car stranded in it on the bridge. So I don't know. I think it'll clear up.
Is this some sort of like I need more time to train strategy you're using?
No,
Hey,
it's
oh,
good.
so
I've been putting in pretty good rides. This week is going to be a crappy week for me, but I've been putting in consistent rides and consistent training. There's going to be no excuse from my side.
Okay.
You know, I have a win-win scenario no matter what. Right?
Ooh, do tell.
Because I win when you realize how it is to ride a hill at 190 plus pounds. That's a win for me.
He already knows the suffering.
Right, I already know what's up, right? I think I may even gain a little more respect from you once you climb that hill at 195 plus pounds.
Okay, can I suggest something and also race and I add weight to myself?
You want to race?
I want to be part of it.
I'm down with it. I'm down with it, but your trash talking has to improve, bro.
I think I'm
You're
here
not good at trash talking. So
sorry.
maybe we'll get. I have a guy who's really good at trash talking. His name is Ed Sauls. Ed, we'll get Ed on training you in trash talking.
In trash talking, I appreciate that.
And we'll get you up on that.
All
All
right.
right.
Someone commented again that we're getting feedback again.
Yeah, Claude, turn that all the way off.
Yeah, it's
when
on.
I had mine on my computer, when I had different things open, man, I was getting so much feedback
Let's
that
try
way.
something here.
All right, so now we've got a threesome. Keep it clean. Going up the hill on New Cut on a race on Wednesday, the April 17th.
I extract myself from this case. I don't know why I said that. I just went out of emotions. Sorry.
That doesn't even make any sense. I think you should. Yeah, why not? You're part of the team now.
I am, but I just want to let you guys as OGs settle this.
Okay. Well,
Maybe I get someone in the
it's
chat.
back to watch this. It's back to mano a mano.
Mano a mano, hombre. Cojones with cojones.
Man, I hope my Spanish is coming off. Like I want people that I want them to double take me and go, is he Spanish?
Dude, that's Spanish. He was throwing some Spanish yesterday on the chat, Paul.
You like that, right?
We had a podcast. We had a Spanish podcast last night. He was throwing some Spanish, man, that I had to Google some of the words. I was like,
The question is after you Googled them, were they the right words?
Dude, that was the word for the scalpel. It literally translated to
To the scalpel, right?
That's
All right, let's get to talking about bikes. All right, so check it out. The cycling industry has had a lot of like new categories popping up all the time. I feel like the cycling industry just needs to constantly reinvent itself in order to sell more bikes. I feel like once a category gets stale, all of a sudden they'll come up with like a new category, and the guys and girls that need to have the latest greatest all go out and buy that bike. I mean, it's obvious in a certain sense that that's what they do, but so not such a new category is downcountry. But what I'm starting to see is the trend of XC bikes that used to be straight XC bikes,
right,
now start to get more travel and start to really venture into downcountry. And I don't know if that still exists now. Is it still downcountry, or is that just XC? You know, so
well, I think they also, because if you think about it, the downcountry is that something new? Like, let me ask you a question. You've been in the industry, and Paul been also racing for a long time. What was the OG of, like, let's start with the XC stars, right? The OG of XC. Let's not go way back, like maybe like from 2000.
So a regular epic.
Sure.
From 2000 to here.
Right, a regular epic. So suspension on, not just an epic, but suspension on a regular cross-country bike used to be 100 millimeters with a 100 millimeter
Rear
front shock. So
or a hardtail.
100, or a 100 with a hardtail, right?
Okay.
And occasionally you get something like an 80 mil front with a hardtail. So it'd be 80 mil with a hardtail.
Okay.
Recently, since the World Cup courses started getting so much more technical, you started seeing bikes get more rake out, or the head tube angles on bikes start to move outward. Okay. Rake and head tube angles, I know, are two different things, but people know what I'm talking about. So you'll see the head tube angles start to come out on a lot of bikes without the travel necessarily getting any better. So example, like the World Cup, the Epic World Cup, or the Trek Super Caliber.
Ew, brother was dead.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that. But those are bikes that are in that category, right? So even those bikes are start to change the head tube angle to make it more slack. So when you're going downhill,
you're talking about this section here.
Yeah, so the front part of the bike, it's going to go from straight up and down at a 90 to where it slacks out. And what that does is keeps you from wanting to get pitched over the handlebars.
Okay.
So now you're seeing bikes.
But be fair, whenever you slack a bike out like that, it's going to be slower in and out of corners. There's just no doubt.
100%. Yeah. So it makes a bike more stable on downhills, and it lengthens the wheelbase. But what it doesn't do is allow it to really handle in the tight corners better. It actually makes it worse when it comes to handling in those tight corners. So there's always a trade-off. But the trade-off, the biggest thing, and I think it happened when Vanderpool went over the handlebars in a World Cup race. A lot of these manufacturers started seeing that if a guy like Vanderpool can't handle his bike to the point where it keeps him from going over, that we need to do something on our end. And what they did was they took that handlebar, that head tube angle, and they started to slack it out and change the head tube angle. So they're not as steep. They're more angled out. So
this would be a good example here.
This is a great example. So this is the new Epic 8. And the cool thing about the Epic 8 is it's now based on a 120 platform. This is the Evo, so it actually comes in at a 130 mil front with a 120 mil platform. And almost all of these bikes in this category now, whether it be this one or whether it be the one behind it, which is the new Scalpel,
Okay.
or whether it's the one back here, which is the new, not the new, but it's the Rocky Mountain Element, or on this side, which we have the Pivot, which is the 429 Trail 429.
That's a beautiful bike.
The Pivot's a beautiful bike, but I think that's the one outlier. And the reason why I call it an outlier is one, because the Pivot's been doing 120, 130 for a long time. And they also call the Pivot the Trail, right? So they haven't been alluding to it being a cross-country bike. They've always said the Pivot was the trail bike. It once was the 429 Trail, now it's the Trail 429. So they just swapped the numbers back and forth. But it's always had trail in its name.
Okay. How old is Pivot?
How old is that?
Like they're full suspension bikes?
Oh, they've been around forever.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been around forever.
Because it's more like a what do they call it? Boutique.
Yeah, Pivot's more of a boutique brand. I mean, technically you can say, a lot of brands are on the boutique if they're not one of the big three, right? So if they're not Trek, they're not Specialized, they're not Giant. A lot of times they're made in smaller quantities and they're more boutique anyway. Versus something like that Paul was riding last year, and he was racing on. Paul, you're racing on a BMC, am I right? At one point.
No, Giant Anthem prior.
Giant Anthem. And that bike was like a 100, right? 100 mil front, 100 mil back.
Yeah.
From the Anthem.
My Epic is even more slack than that bike was.
Right.
What's your Epic right now, Paul?
The
Is
Epic
Epic. Yeah, Epic is
21, I think.
Yeah,
No, the travel.
100.
100.
Okay, let's be honest. Go ahead.
Here's my point. This is Donald and I were talking before, and this is what came up. And this goes back to the whole Vanderpool example, right? So if I'm a bike company and I see Vanderpool go over the handlebars, I know Vanderpool. He's a cross racer, right? He has no problem in and out of corners. You can give him any bike. He's not going to have any problem in and out of corners. What he doesn't have a lot of practice in is going downhill, like on these new XC courses. So we decide as an industry, or the bikes decide, we're going to put 120 travel on the front and back, which makes it slower in and out of corners, but because we're not worried about Vanderpool in that area, what we're worried about for him is going downhill faster, right? We don't want him to lose out on Schurter and other maybe technically more skilled riders on the downhill, so we're going to make him a bike. And then us as consumers, we decide, 120 is the XC bike. I still think that's up for debate. I would, and Donald and I were sort of talking like we should bring this up because I'm not so sure that's the right answer for your local racer because we're not riding on those World Cup courses. Some of the courses are difficult, don't get me wrong, but they're not of that caliber.
I mean, is this, where are you guys getting this from, that it was because of him that this happened?
I'm not just saying it was
It's just
from
an
him.
example.
It's a hell of a coincidence that after the poster boy of cycling flipped over the handlebars off of going over a drop, that all of a sudden the industry wants to make the rake of the fork. I think what happened was it was an eye-opener that they're making these courses much harder, right? Cross-country courses 5 years ago didn't have big drops. They didn't have gap jumps. They didn't have things like that in a cross-country course. Now they have these things that could cause someone to do what Vanderpool did and flip over the handlebar because his head tube angle was so steep. If he would have had a more raked out bike, odds are he would have been able to ride away from it. But
Do you guys think, I mean, we have a question here. Why is it? Okay, someone asked, what does being boutique means, Donald?
boutique just means less.
Almost fell on my face. I'm like,
Boutique means like less bikes made, kind of like a Ferrari, a Porsche, or something like that, versus like a Ford, Chevy, or whatever. It's going to be a slightly higher end product, less volumes made, things like that, less dealers around, things like that.
I have one point to make here, and it's that we have all of these bikes we have here are 120, 130, and I'm gonna ask you, Paul, and you, Donald. You kind of have something similar right now, but is one of these bikes for you here for the style of riding that you have? Paul, is one of these bikes you see yourself soon on one of these XC down country style bikes?
I don't think I need 120 travel for the courses I ride.
Okay.
I think at that point I'm adding weight, which I'm very particular about. Technically, it doesn't offer me what I think it would offer on a much more technical course. And it slows me in and out of corners. And many of the courses locally, there's a lot of in and out of corners, even on the mountain bike races. So.
Yeah.
Like personally for me, I feel like a 120 is to have fun on the trail.
So I always tell people, like, are you going to buy a bike based on your things that you aren't good at, or are you going to buy a bike based on the things that you're good at? Right. For instance, do I buy a bike that's a hell of a climber because I'm not a good climber and I need all the help I can get there? Or do I buy a bike that accentuates the things that I'm better at, like descending, right?
Okay.
Do I try to make up the time that I lose in climbing by getting a bike that's so good in descending that I make up even more time there, right? So I've gone the route of buying a bike that's a good climber. That's what my World Cup is.
Right.
But with my World Cup, I descend a lot slower than I do on something else.
Because of the shore.
Yeah, but even though I descend slower with my World Cup, my technical ability still makes me still above average in the technical sections, right? So are you going to buy a bike? Do you buy a bike that plays to your strong points, or do you buy a bike that plays to your weakness?
Let me give you an example, though, that I think to clarify the up and down conversation.
Before we go deeper, someone can put in the comments, hey, like the balloons. The reason Vanderpool fell on the course is because they removed the ramp that was there during the practice. I think I heard about that too.
Yeah, that's no matter what, that's still not the reason at Vanderpool. They had a practice ramp that people were going down, and Vanderpool just didn't go off the jump right. Either way, however you think it happened, it is what it is. It still happened, and they still started to change the way that bikes were made afterwards. And that's when you start to see a lot of the changes happen were after that. So
Let me go back. Though.
Yeah, let me hear you. What's up, Paul?
I want to talk a little bit about what you said about should I just buy a bike if I'm mountain biking racing based on my strength or weakness.
Go ahead.
What was that, Paul?
Point out. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. But I want to point out, let's say hypothetically 2 guys are riding in Patapsco and they go up from the road, right? Maybe one guy on that elevation can put in 1.5 minutes to the other guy, right? On the downhill, that same elevation, that guy probably only puts about, I would say 30 seconds, even if he's really, really fast. You know what I'm saying? So there's a difference between going uphill and downhill based on bike choice and what you're going to accommodate strength versus weakness.
But do you think me choosing a better climbing bike, I would make up the same amount of difference or less? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because the question would be, would you climb enough faster than less that you would lose on the downhill with that bike versus your old Specialized, which had a little bit more travel and certainly more bounce in the front.
Right. I don't know. See, that's the crazy part. Like, I 100% say on a good downhill, I know that if I had a 121, 130 bike, that I would be considerably faster on a downhill. On things where I say that I tiptoe through certain things and I hit the brakes, I wouldn't hit the brakes on some of these bikes. I just get light and just go, right?
I guess my question to you is, so we do a typical route, right? We go up a climb and then we come down a climb when you and I ride in the park. On our initial climb up to Ridge, right?
Right.
Are you faster second-wise than you used to be, as opposed to when we go down Garrett's, right? Really is where we do our exit, right? Are you that much slower on the downhill?
Garrett's is so long and it has enough pedaling that I can be faster on my World Cup than on anything else. There's going to be certain segments where that double jump is on Garrett's, where I hit it on my World Cup, but I only hit it once, and after I hit it, I was like, I ain't doing that again. But I wouldn't even hesitate to hit it on one of these bikes, especially the Pivot, where the Pivot is closer to a trail bike than a cross country bike.
Yeah.
Where you look at the Scalpel.
Yeah.
The Scalpel, same travel as the Pivot, but the Scalpel is closer to a cross-country bike than a trail bike, right?
This one is 130 as well?
Yeah.
I thought it was 120.
Well, 120, 120 on it, but it's still the same platform, a 120 rear, and you can change the shock. So that's 120. It is 120, 120. 120, 120 on the Scalpel, but same thing with the Epic 8. So the Epic 8, this is an Evo, but the Epic 8 standard is 120, 120. And I would even say that the Scalpel is even more of a cross-country bike than the Epic 8 standard at 120, 120. If they were both on the same platform, 120, 120 platform, I would say that the Scalpel is the most cross-country out of all of these bikes, followed by the Epic Evo, maybe the Rocky Mountain Element, and then more of a trail bike would be the Pivot.
I feel like the Pivot, it's like the perfect bike for us around here. Like
I agree. I think the Pivot's going to be really. I haven't ridden the new Pivot, but before I got to where I am with all these bikes, the Pivot was my favorite bike for years. Even after we stopped selling Pivot, we've gone back to selling them. But even after we stopped selling Pivot, I always told people that the 429 was my favorite bike. And I was in search of finding that feel and that bike ever since. Since then, a lot of other bikes have adopted that platform and made that platform even lighter weight bikes.
Our buddy Bill says the new Scalpel is much slacker than it used to be.
Yeah, well, that's what we were getting at. I think all the bikes in that category are now have more slack head tube angles than they used to be. That's kind of what I was saying.
I would love to see. Remember, you used to love the Evo you had. I would love to see you put that bike up against the current World Cup and then look at the angles on it and say, wow, it's probably very similar.
They're really close. Believe it or not, the old Evo and the new World Cup, the head tube angles are really similar. They're not there. It's a little more, the old Evo is a little more slack, but it's close. It's close for sure.
I'm with what Paul was saying. Like, it all comes down to what you want to do, to like your style of riding, and also, which matters the most, where you're going to be taking your bike.
Right.
Because if you're going to be primarily like riding Patasco, then Pivot, Epic 8 will be like perfect. If you're going to be, for our people that is in our area, like Schaefer Farms, Fairland, you will be like on the scaffold. Or if you're going to be racing, then that will be your choice,
Well,
right?
Yes,
I mean,
again, it's riding style.
You can convert this to
A 120.
120.
Yeah.
120.
Same
right?
frames.
Right.
Same frames.
Well, here's my thing. For me, the real test for all these bikes, because it's my style of riding, will be endurance.
Yeah.
And the 130, the 120, for me on an endurance,
It's too much.
I think it will be too much.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, again, I like the 120 because when I'm coming around a rooty section,
Right.
and instead of hitting the brakes, I might just literally kind of hop into the roots and try to hop in and bounce out, right? So I'm in and out really quick. And that 120 is going to absorb that initial hit really good versus like my World Cup, man, if I hop into a rooty section, I may not come out.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, so I have to hit those brakes a lot harder than I normally would. A really good test of that World Cup is when we just got finished riding a trail system called Loch Raven Reservoir. And down near the reservoir, it's incredibly rooty and very bumpy. And a lot of those roots, man, just really slowed me down. Where if I was on a 120 platform, I would have just been able to power through it a little bit versus having to feel like I was dragging a little bit of an anchor through there.
You said it last time that we were doing the unboxing of the Epic 8.
Mm-hmm.
The Epic 8 will be perfect for those that know the area for the Shenandoah. If you were to do the Shenandoah, or you, Paul, doing the Shenandoah 100, which of these bikes will you take?
The Epic 8.
The Epic 8?
Oh, I think I would do the scalpel.
You would be behind me then.
What's that?
See, he's getting personal.
What'd he
man.
say?
Every time.
I missed that one, Paul. What was it?
I said you would be behind me then.
Yeah, I would be. That's a course that has. That's a course that has a lot. I mean, the cool part about it is that's the only course that I've ever ridden where I had to stop in the middle of a downhill and shake my arms out and shake my hands out because I was just getting so much arm pump from riding. Now, granted, when I did it on a hardtail. It was years and years and years ago. I think it might have been the third or fourth time they've ever held the Shenandoah 100. And now that I'm a little older, that's your cup of tea, man. I don't think I want to do a 100-mile mountain bike race.
About to find out.
Yeah. I don't think I want to do a 100-mile mountain bike
We
race.
have Splash MTV on the chat. Thanks for joining, brother. He says, agree, style of riding is everything. I use all of my 1,500 mil.
Yeah, 150. Yeah.
150 mil on every trail ride because I just, jumping on everything. Yeah.
He did it in millimeters instead of centimeters, but yeah, it's he has a true trail bike, and he uses it like I know he uses that bike for everything.
Yeah.
So, if going from point A to point B is not going from point A to point B as fast as you can is not like what you're looking for, then there's no need to do an XC bike. XC bikes are just that. They're cross-country race bikes. If you don't have a desire to go point A to point B as fast as you can, get more travel. More travel, the better, right? All the way up to the point where it's no longer fun, right? Because where the fun will go away is when you have to take that 160 millimeter of travel fork and bike and climb up to the top before you can have your fun going down, right? That's where it's not fun anymore. I believe that you need to have a bike and put yourself in the mindset that you no matter what, you're going to climb.
Right, yeah.
Right? So accept the climbs.
You're a CNO.
Yeah, accept the climbs and try to make it fun for yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And one way to do it is to have a bike that can actually climb well. and you're not just completely blowing up on the climb, getting up there so you're completely tired and can't ride the downhill because you're so tired from the climb. So in my opinion, I think the best bike in this area, one of the best bikes would be, like I said, I think the Pivot is a machine for this area. I think you can do a little bit of you can do everything you want really good on that platform. And although it's the same platform as the Epic, I can only go by what since I haven't had the Epic out on a trail, I can only go by what I know about the Pivot.
Right.
You know, very similar.
We're gonna get back to how much of a difference on the shock being like this. What is that, like vertical? Or
right.
Than being like the Pivot.
Well, they're different kinds of suspensions.
But on like how, as far as like,
that's a whole nother show.
Okay.
It really is. It's like it's looking at the different styles of suspension all the way down to, like, I keep bringing up BMC because I've been really looking into BMCs.
Right.
They have a lower a shock on the BMCs where the entire suspension linkage and everything is at the bottom.
Okay.
So it looks different than everything else. It's just another way.
Listen, suspension is such a loaded, like, people say suspension, they say 130, they say 120. Who even knows if their shock is set up correctly? Like, people, there's so much to attend to with suspension.
There's so much to suspension. You're right. It can 100% be just one of those things where you can have, like, you can be out there all day long trying to figure it out, right? Like, there's people that set up suspensions almost professionally, just like you would go and get a road fit. There's people that set your suspension up and make sure that you're dialed in on your suspension, just like fitting yourself on a road bike. It's equally as complicated, if not more so.
Which means then you have to realize, you have to be astute enough as a rider to realize those subtle changes in your suspension.
Right.
Setup. So
Ricky says, I have the new four stroke. What's that?
It's a bike. Yeah. So yeah, the four strokes are a great bike. I mean, there's so many good bikes out there that we can in that category. I mean, it's endless almost. So there, like I said, it could be every major company has a bike in that category.
is there category anymore? Is because now we're saying, there used to be you needed an XC bike, then you needed an enduro bike, then you needed a downhill bike, and they were three distinct machines.
That's what I was saying.
Now we're getting closer, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying from the beginning. Are they just creating categories to sell bikes, right? Because 4 or 5 years ago, a 100, 110 millimeter bike was all anybody needed. Now they're saying, oh, because the XC World Cup XC course, which 99% of us will never hit an XC World Cup course ever. Do we really need a 120, a 120, 130 bike? Or is our old bike still good enough? Right? But we're just like
the Patapsco trails haven't changed. The Patapsco trails haven't changed.
They have not changed at all. It's just like having the latest iPhone, right? So you get into we're all bike nerds, and we see a new product and we get all excited about it, and we think that we need to have it. And we'll almost convince ourselves and give ourselves reasons that we have to have the newest product, and that's coming from someone who sells bikes for a living. We don't necessarily need it. Is there a difference? Yeah, there is. That category has always existed. It's just now more dominant, and you're starting to see it more. Like I said, the 429 Trail has been out for a long time, right? That's not a new bike and not a new platform.
On the 130.
Yeah, they've tweaked that a little bit, but for the most part, that bike's been the same for the last 6-7 years.
I mean, I had this one on 120. That was my first time. I mean, as we said on other videos, riding full suspension 120, 120. I mean, and just going, like you said, going downhill, it just gives you so much, like it just eats everything. Like,
Gives you confidence.
it gives you confidence. Like you don't feel the roots, you don't feel the rocks. You just go
So you're going
slow,
downhill. You're going downhill
a
faster.
lot faster.
You want to hear something crazy about that? You crash harder when you go faster. just letting you know. Just
Not
letting
if
you
hit the
know.
brakes.
Now I got a good story to tell about Paul.
Oh no! Is this about me losing my elbow on Garrett's? Is that what you're saying? Is that? I knew you
Is
were
there-
going- Once you
is
said
there
that,
a
I'm like,
video?
he's gonna
Is there a
say.
video?
It's not a video, so it's not a video, so it's just me and Paul. So Paul, when we started first riding together, I think it was like 3 years ago, we started riding mountain bikes together, and Paul would just drag me around the trails all day long. Like, and when we get on the long downhills, I would get in front, and Paul would kind of let me lead out. This particular time, Paul was just killing it this day. I mean, he was noticeably faster. And I said something to him at the top. I was like, man, you are really rolling on these technical stuff. You're getting it. And we were coming down the hill, and we made a sharp corner, and somehow or another, Paul got out in front of me a little bit, and he kind of disappeared. And as I went past, I literally see his bike, and there's no Paul. I go up a little bit more, and Paul's kind of down in the bushes down here. And like I said, the faster you go, the harder you fall.
The harder you fall,
Yeah, he was all right. Ripped his elbow open, but yeah, that's what happens with speed. With speed comes a big responsibility.
Ricky brings up a good point. He says, I think with a three-way lock out and 120, 120, you can have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's where it's going, because think about how light that scalpel is.
Yeah.
That scalpel was 2 pounds lighter than the Epic Evo. Now, we got to compare apples with apples. The Epic Evo had a heavier shock on the front, but it was definitely lighter than that. That's going to weigh 24 pounds out of the box, and it's not even the highest build. It's like 24 and a half, 25 pounds with converted to tubeless. You do double lockouts on that bike, and that's a pretty light bike.
It's rigid. I was locking, at some point, I was locking this bike, just the front, and it was just as rigid as they come.
Yeah. So, that's where we are with that category. There's still questions. Like, I want people to answer. Why do you think they're coming up with this
I wish
category?
I wish when I started writing, I mean, I'm sure there was content like what we're doing tonight. Because, dude, like, for me to find the style of writing that I like, it took like 6 years. And in those 6 years, I went from 27 plus, from 27 plus, and then I got into a fat bike, and then into like a hardtail titanium, and then I went back to 20. So I went like to so many bikes trying to find like what I like. I came into like the downcountry XC world.
Is that what you like, though?
Where that's what I like.
But you're more XC. You're not downcountry.
Right, yeah. Like the XC world, yeah.
Right. See, that's my whole thing. I'm like confused. As someone in the cycling industry, I'm still confused. Is 120
not for the reason
XC bike?
Not for the reason like I don't think you're gonna see someone doing the Cape Epic on one of these bikes though. Just
No,
because it's endurance
I'd see them doing it on the World Cup.
on the World Cup, right? On
Right.
the Epic, on the old Epic. I saw a lot of people doing the Cape Epic on the old
Epic
on the old
Evo.
Epic.
I've even seen them doing it on the old Epic Evo.
But the old Epic Evo is 120 or 130?
It's 120,
Okay.
120 front, 100 back, or 110. There's so many now, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Right? It's but my point is that now the new cross country bike?
I feel like the pros ride it because at the same time it's marketing. This is where everything is going, and it's like, yeah, you have to ride the new thing.
Yeah, but they still want to win.
Yeah.
Are they riding it because it's faster? Or are they riding it because they're like, oh, here, ride this bike. It's not faster, but you'll make up the difference because you're that good.
What do you think the weight is between a Kashima Fox 32 versus a 34 120?
Oh, it's over a pound.
Over a pound?
Yeah. Yeah, 34 versus a 32. It's definitely a weight.
Which is my whole point. In this area, do you need to put 2 pounds on your bike for 10 more meters of travel? Are you skilled enough to know the difference? And then 2, is that going to make you faster on your if you really want to be faster? And I don't think it's true.
I think it will be faster if you have black and tan tires.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. Deeply researched. It's deeply researched. It's proven in numerous peer-reviewed journals.
Paul, what's your style of bike, Paul? Where do you fit in?
I like riding. I like that you guys think that we have a style, therefore we ride a bike. I think the bike influences my style. That's how I feel. So I like doing downhill stuff on my, the Santa Cruz, the Butcher, which is a really heavy 27. We built that. It's still like 28 pounds. But man, if you take that out west and you do lift assist and you're going over big jumps, that's a very stable bike. It lands well every time. And I did stuff that I would never do on any other bike. Right?
All right. I get where you're going with that. But the style of bike that you ride the most is like out here.
XC bike. That's all you need. I haven't met the trails here except on the western slope of Massanutten that will require more travel than 100. I haven't met the trail yet.
But you can still do it it all comes down to what you are doing on the bike. I feel like that's what it comes down to. I feel like if you're already deep into like the cycling community or the cycling sport, I feel like you already know what you like. You already know what you like to do. If it's just like going on a Wednesday ride, going on a Saturday ride with your buddies, I feel like you're going to buy the bike around that. Well, with a 130, if you're like a casual rider, I feel you're going to have a lot of fun because Ricky was saying, you get a little bit of both worlds, You go down fast, you go to go up fast, and you still get to enjoy
but I don't
it.
think Elvis, I think you said, I'm going to use you as an example because you said it before. I went through 5 or 6 bikes before I found the style of riding. And I would suggest maybe that's where you are today, but a couple of years you may find something, you want to do something different, and you're going to have a different bike that needs.
That's right. Because it's always evolving.
That's a good point.
It's always evolving, right? Like, once you, I'm starting to realize that I'm not as fast as I used to be. Right. But I still love riding. So me chasing speed like I used to may not be the best thing for me to do to really enjoy riding, because all I'm going to do is disappoint myself. Even if I'm just competing against myself
or Paul,
I'm just going to disappoint myself. Right. So yeah, you start to realize, all right, well, there's so many other aspects of cycling that really make it fun for me. And those haven't left yet, right? So I can still have fun on like the technical stuff, and my technical skills haven't left.
Right.
It's like they say with boxers, the reaction time leaves, but the power doesn't leave until later on, right? I feel like with mountain bikers, your speed may go away, but your technical ability doesn't leave until later on. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, as far as like starting to slow it down a little bit. I still want to go fast, but fast for me and not worry about everything else. So I think the 120,
you do have
130,
one thing to worry about on April 15th.
17.
You should be worrying about that.
That's road. That's a whole different thing.
Is that like easy, you think? That's done?
No. It's mentally I'm okay with it, because it's a no lose scenario for me.
Go bike you think you're gonna take?
It's a road bike.
Oh, it's on a road bike?
Yeah. We're climbing New Cut.
I thought it was on a mountain bike.
No. It's road bike.
Oh, okay. Okay, go on.
It's road bike. So we're climbing New Cut, and it's a no lose scenario for me. Paul beats me. Guess what everybody thinks? He was supposed to beat me. He's supposed to beat me. I beat Paul. It doesn't look bad on me.
Nah.
Right?
You might lose in the sponsorship, Paul. So you're gonna
doesn't-
have to let him win.
It
What
doesn't
happened
look
to
bad on
Paul?
me.
Oh
Pressure-
no! What happened? What happened to Paul?
Yeah, in other words, the pressure's on Paul. It's not on me.
Yeah.
Right? I lose. I was supposed to lose. Vegas has odds on me. Like, they're not on Paul right now. If you go to bet in Vegas, I'm like the underdog.
He's starting to sound like the Bad News Bears. You remember that movie from years ago?
I do.
I don't know, man.
So,
I think this is because like we get a lot of people. I mean, I get a lot of questions. Hey, what bike should I get? But I think this is a good point because these are like fun bikes. These are like good bikes for our.
Are they?
I think so. All of them.
see, that's so funny because, like, literally, I think that's a cross-country bike.
Like I got a lot of questions about the scalpel. Like people send me DMs and they were like, "Man, that bike looks heavy."
No,
I was like,
it's
not.
light.
I was like, "It's not heavy.
It's actually light.
It's really light.
Yeah.
It's like it's 4 pounds heavier than my Epic, and this doesn't have all the components that my Epic has.
Right. That bike is a middle-of-the-line bike
Yeah.
that 100% can get a lot lighter.
No.
And it's not bad right now. Like I said, I think it's 24, 25 pounds.
24 pounds. Like if this was me right here, I would do no dropper, drivetrain. I guess the handlebars are okay, and maybe a
And guess what you're turning it back into? A pure cross-country bike.
No dropper post.
Yeah. I like I said, each bike represents, even though they're the same category, each bike represents a different style of rider.
Now, do you want to do prices on this?
Well, no, because they're not all in the same price range, but they are like, for instance,
In the 5K, right? 5K, 6K.
if you're going to compare apples, we just have to compare
Except for,
apples. That's an
Rocky.
aluminum frame for the Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, that's
So-
why it's back there.
Yeah, but I think the thing that we want to do is this is why it's important to go out and test ride bikes if you can. Right? Same exact category, opposite ends of the spectrum. That's going to be, again, pure cross country, not pure cross country, but definitely more cross country with the Scalpel, and a light duty trail bike with the 429.
Right.
That's a trail bike. That's a XC bike. Same category.
That's so weird. That's so weird.
It is, though.
And like confusing at the same time.
It is. That's why, again, that's
I
why
We have-
I tell people that you wanna make sure you ride these bikes and make sure you know what you're getting into when you go into a shop. You want to ask a lot of questions, and hopefully the staff in whatever
Yeah.
store you go to has enough knowledge about the different bikes to put you in the right direction. Because again, you can come in and say, I want a down country bike, 120, 130 travel, and you still have 4 different kinds of bikes to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do. We go back to this because at the same time you have to do your research of what you're going to be doing. And I feel like the other day someone came in and they were looking for a bike, but they didn't know what to buy. And you kind of like took the time to like, hey, what are you going to be doing? What gravel?
Gotta ask
Dude,
those questions.
And you know what? And I'm going to put you out there because there was one bike here that you were trying to sell. It was the SRT.
Yeah.
SRT. And then she asked for the bike, and then she told you what kind of gravel she was going to be riding. But you were trying to sell the bike for a while, and you're like, no, that bike is not for you.
No.
Even though she asked, like, hey, that's a nice bike.
You
And
know,
you told her no, the other bike was better.
So I have a
Okay.
responsibility. I think I have a responsibility with a handful of things. One of the things that I feel like, and I'm passionate about, is selling someone the right bike for their needs, even if it's not a bike that we carry, right? I'd much rather put you on a bike the bike that you need versus just trying to sell a bike off my floor. Because if you do it the other way around and you just try to sell a bike off the floor because you sat on it for a long time and you're like, oh, here's someone that can buy the bike. It's not what they need, but I can sell them this bike. It'll come back to haunt you every single time. Because eventually they're going to run into someone who's really knowledgeable. And the first question they're going to ask is, who the hell sold you this bike?
You have a bike packing.
Yeah, right. Or, it's like, having the right tool for the job. Will it get it done 100%? But when someone's spending upwards of $5,000, $6,000 on a bike, the last thing you want them to do is feel like, man, he just talked me into this bike and it's not the right bike for me. Yeah. Or maybe they come in and they say they want that's the bike they want, and I can say, all right, well, it's not my fault that's the bike that they chose. Right. It's not the right bike for them, but it's not the bike it's the bike that they chose, so I'm going to sell it to them on purpose.
Or the correct size.
or the right size, right? Or I can go to bed easy at night and just say, hey, look, let me give you another suggestion. I'll sell you that bike if you want me to. Right. But let me show you something that might work better for you. Sometimes it saves them more money. Sometimes it might be a little more expensive, but it's the right tool for the right job. And I can rest easy knowing that I did what I needed to do to make sure that this person's on the right bike.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why I brought that up is because what I said, it's like I went through so many different bikes. I even have bikes that weren't my size.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people did short, big. Like at one point I was riding a 62 on a road bike.
Yeah, that's a big
5'11".
Yeah, that's a big bike. Were you pedaling inside the first triangle?
It's I mean,
But we see it a lot as in the cycling industry, right? We see it a ton. It's up to us, and sometimes you can't change it, right? They'll come in and that's what they want, and you can't talk them out of it. You sometimes will have them sign on. Hey, look, I'm selling you this bike. It's not the right size. Just sign here, and let it go. You can the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
On that note,
we have one last question for Ricky, and it says, what tires are you guys running? Are you going for the lightest or wider 2.4? I have found Race King to be the fastest and lightest, but I am trying the Fast Track Renegade combo now.
Man,
this is a loaded question. First,
that's such a loaded question.
If they're black and tan, we know they're 0.0075% faster than any of their just all black counterparts.
Yeah. Faster anyway.
Ardent in the front, Icon in the rear is the fastest setup. But
for me, and here's the difference. I'm running specialized ground control front and back. I'll run a slightly wider one in the front, and I ride a slightly narrow. I ride as big as I can stuff in the front of that bike. I'm gonna ride that bike because if the front end goes away, you're done. If the back end slides out, you're okay. But yeah, man, ground controls all year round for me.
Fast Track for me, 2.2.
Yeah.
Rear and front.
Yeah, I like to really in corners.
It's a narrow setup.
That's a narrow setup. I couldn't do that.
What, 2.2?
Nah.
I was riding Continentals and I had such a bad experience with Continentals. Ever since then, never Continental.
Watch, Continental's going to reach out to you tomorrow and be like, "Hey, we'd like you to represent us." Oh, wait a second, we just saw your video where you
hashtag, hey, I can delete that.
Right. So,
it never happened.
I was on high caffeine, sir.
Right. So for me, I need the bike to feel planted. I will lose a couple of seconds on the straightaway if I can gain a couple in corners where I'm digging into the corner really hard and making up the difference in the corners and just feeling confident in the corners. So I'm riding not so much a pure XC tire like the Fast Tracks. I'm riding closer to a light trail tire with the ground control.
This is the tip of the day and is brought to you by Craig Poole. He says tires from here are about terrain and how long of ride. Where's the other one?
He said something about helium. Oh, he deleted it.
Oh, that's what he does.
Tires from
That Craig Poole. That Craig Poole, you gotta watch him. You gotta watch Craig.
Oh no, here he is. Sorry, he said use helium instead of compressed air.
There you go.
There you go. Tip of the day.
All right, let's call this, guys. I appreciate it. We're right at the hour mark. Can you make it do the thumb
I
thing?
don't know.
Man, we look really weird right now doing that, guy.
Thumbs up.
All
I
right.
don't know. It randomly does it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever it wants to.
All right. So yeah, guys, thanks for joining us tonight. Hey, make sure you subscribe to our channel because it really does help us. And we've noticed that as we get more subscriptions to the channel, our view count goes way up.
Yeah.
We want to start getting to the point where we can give back. And we can't give back until we get our view count up and our subscriptions up. So please, if you're watching this, it's nothing. Even if you don't ever come back, just subscribe anyway. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the live. We had the chat really nice for the questions, the comments, everyone that joined. Yeah, like Donald said, make sure you subscribe. We have both channels, Black and Tan, which is in the bio of the video, Black and Tan, and DMV MTV. And I'll leave you guys with the doctor.
All right, Doc.
Take care, guys. Good to see you.
Good to
Next
see you.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. We'll be on the road. We will be live from the road.
We'll be live from the road.
From the road?
Yeah, we're gonna be live from the race.
Oh, yeah. We got to set those drones up.
We'll set it up. We're gonna have to start the technical side of it the day before.
Yes.
but we'll get it to you guys. I promise.
We need a Shimano vehicle that is following the race.
We could do that.
The shoulder
We
camera.
we know those people.
We can race in slow motion on the day before.
There you go. All right, guys.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Later.
Good night.